Just puts me up. So, thankfully I have these little meetings to come to, because then I can share like a much quicker way of looking at things that your mind has the ability to entertain and drop, and the recognition of it doesn't take any time. It's an aha or an unspoken yes, or it's like it already was there before you seem to have come upon it. That's how beautiful it is. And when you do seemingly come upon it, the sense that it's always been there becomes so obvious that it always was and it always will be. And that no matter how significant you thought you were, you're totally insignificant in regards to that. Yeah? You're not having any effect or influence. Though it may not appear to be so to you, it doesn't mean it's not so, in other words. The only thing that we can come up with is it can appear on a daily experience that it's not so. But it doesn't ever erase its so-ness. And that's why it's a solution. Yeah? Because it doesn't take you into consideration at all, in a way. Yeah? In other words, the solution, in a sense, is totally not based on you, and yet when you're in the problem, it seems to be based on you. Because you can seem not to be attending to it, yeah? It can seem to you that it's not so, that it's not actually an active influence in your day, because if it is an active influence in your day, you'll probably be traveling lighter through that day. Whatever that day entails, you'll be traveling lighter through it. It doesn't mean it's going to make it an incline and a rolling down into an infinite meadow of purity. It's going to mean if you get fired, you have to go to the emergency room, you'll travel lighter over that event. And then really, it's when it's seen in when I'm speaking or people are talking back to me about it, it seems like it's just a peculiar notion. It's a very advanced metaphysical, intellectual idea, and yet it leads to the simplicity that is beyond our grasp here. Yeah? Because you and I, the way I'm built, I don't know about you, but the way I'm built, I can't embrace what already is. I can't see it. It's just like you don't know the effects of gravity right now in your experience. Even if you're totally identified as a body, you get its effects, because when you're trying to run up that steep hill, it's going to be harder to breathe, but you won't know that it's coming from gravity. You won't realize the dynamics of what's going on. Yeah? So in a sense, without that knowledge, you'll be at the effects of it. So the only way you know about gravity is if you go into an anti-gravity chamber. And then you have an experience of what it's like not to be under the influence of gravity. And what happens? You recognize gravity by its absence. And in a sense, this idea of the self being fueled to find out the truth, to me, is a bogus trajectory of selfing. It leads nowhere. But if you're not that self, you may find out about life from the truth. Yeah? Based on that truth, you're not a long-lasting, independent, separate entity. Blue now may appear to be blue, and red may appear to be red. Things will clear up, seemingly on their own volition. Not volition, there'll be no thought or effort on your part. You'll just be seeing anew. That's all. Because the mind shifted. What did it shift? It actually didn't shift at all. It moved. One of its fixed reference point was questioned, and then it realized it's not self-centered, it's centered. Yeah? And that centered is everywhere at all times, with no requirement necessary to meet it. Yeah? It's always available. It's more available than anything. The closest thing to you isn't as more available as that, because it is what you are. Yeah? You can get the closest truth that you believe it is, and be the attendant to that master every freaking day, clean his ass, wash his dishes, this and that. And this is closer than that. Yeah? It's available, but he's closer than that, because it can't possibly be anywhere away. Yeah? That master can leave. What happens? I really love to see this dude or this lady, but then they go on a year trek to speak in Europe. Now you're looking at pictures and watching DVDs and pining for your master. Yeah? Fuck, the master now is a source of suffering instead of being a source of relief and ease and comfort. Yeah? This is beyond that, or before that. Yeah. Before that fascination can take hold, and then that object of fascination can be moved closer or farther, this is the inherent fascination, involved and convoluted in itself, participating and manifesting, expressing at every moment here. It's all doing it anonymously in a sense. None of us are picking up on it, or very few are picking up on it. That every check that happens here, that's the name on it. Yeah? Its fingerprints are all over everything that goes on. And yet we're like, what's the sense of God, the sense of presence? I don't feel it. It's like you don't know you're feeling gravity right now, but you're not aware of it. Well, you're sensing the presence of what you are, and you're not aware of it. Or maybe you are aware of it. Yeah. Hopefully that's the case. Because if you are aware of it, it will be a leavening agent to all the seriousness and all the meaning that's given to everything here. Yeah. Yeah. Every subjective experience will be changed a little bit. Every one of them. And that's all we're having here is a subjective experience. No one's seeing this chair as a chair. They're seeing this chair as it means what it means to them. I see a chair like this, and for 25 years in recovery programs, I've sat on many chairs just like this. Yeah? Someone who doesn't go to recovery meetings just sees that as a metallic chair that they very rarely even get an experience of. My ass has spent hours and hours on these chairs in my life. Yeah? So the meaning that chair has is totally different than the meaning you're giving that chair. Yeah? You're not going to escape from a subjective experience. Yeah? But the incredible sway of meaning, everything. Like some people I know, they have at least 3 earth-shattering events a week, yet the earth never shatters. They're on the phone, everything's collapsing. Well, and then 3 days later they're playing golf. You know? What happened to everything was collapsing? Oh, well, and then the next week, hey, everything's collapsing again. You know? How many times can everything collapse? You know, this is the meaning. This is the meaning the mind's giving things, yeah? All being funneled to a point of view called self-centeredness. Try to get out there and try to change the meaning as they're being grown. It's like cutting a plant that just incessantly pops back up with different types of leaves, but the same fucking thing, growing and growing and growing. You become the constant gardener, you know? Don't let anyone know this and this and that. What would happen if you saw that the center of all that meaning giving, the self, that frame, isn't you? That you're not defined by that frame. What would happen? Find out. Entertain the possibility. And then you'll find out through your days. You won't find out at the next seminar. It's not going to be given to you after the 12-month program you go into. You'll find out in the living of it. You'll see that Jesus, the meanings in my life seem to have changed dramatically. Yeah. I mean, the effect of this has proliferated greatly in my vision and my experience. I must be on to something. Yeah? Instead of changing something that affects 2 other things, how about changing something that affects everything that you see and feel and taste and touch? Yeah? All the interpretation of the event of being consciously in contact will be interpreted in a much clearer, lighter fashion. You're fucking on to something. Yeah? Light begets light. Sometimes I go to meetings, I feel like I'm a vacuum salesman. Everyone has these terrible fucking old rugs, tons of dust and mites, but they think they have hardwood floors. They're not interested at all in the vacuum. What? I don't need a fucking vacuum. Jesus Christ. Why do you think you have sinus infections all day? Why do you think your nose is running all day? It's the fucking rug. If it was cleaned, you may be able to live much lighter in your own house, you know? Well, I don't get it. I thought it was some outside. Yeah, you're standing right on it. It's so simple, really. I don't know. It's something you'll be reminded of because you've looked from there in the past when you were a kid. If you were in an abusive situation, if your childhood hadn't been stolen by situations and circumstances where you had to live in anxiety and fear all day, you were looking from the same place that we are at right now. We're just not paying attention to it. Yeah? And what did that provoke? Wonder and awe. We were engaged in things. I played for 3 years under an old apple tree with my friend Wayne Griffith with like 13 plastic army men every day after school. You know, my mother didn't have to buy giant 20-pound plastic things I got bored with in 2 days. We had our imagination, and we just were totally engaged, me and Wayne, hanging out, you know what I mean? And what happened to all that? Yeah. Now our ability to entertain has been taken over by a master, a mental master called selfing, and we're entertaining like, what did that person mean by saying hello to me for 5 hours? Or, I think that look means my boss is going to fire me this week or something. We're riffing on all of this all freaking day. Yeah? And that, which was producing an ease and comfort playing with Wayne Griffith, and because I had no idea of time yet, so I wasn't worrying, will I be playing tomorrow? Because there was no idea of tomorrow yet, yeah? And I wasn't judging, should I be playing with Wayne Griffith? That didn't happen until I went to school, and then I saw all these cool guys, I started buying into that, then Wayne became an uncool guy. Yeah? But at that time, he was just my best friend. You know? What happened to that view? We grew into another view. Yeah? How could it not be so? We grew out of that view into another view. And this view, in a sense, the door seemed to have been locked once we got in. Yeah? Now we can look out through its windows, but we can't get out. In the sense, self can't get out of self. That's the biggest dilemma of all spiritual practices. Is if there's the identification as self, and it's trying to use a program to get out of self, good luck. You're just going to be you're going to be a differently adorned self. Instead of like tats and black leather, you'll be wearing white yoga pants and you'll have a loving gaze instead of that fucking crazy gaze. It's the same bullshit, it's just a different version of it. Yeah? And you'll have a great resume. Well, I've done all these retreats. Who did the retreats? The same person who was shooting the drugs? Yeah. There you go. The bondage of self just migrated to each identity. You know, when you sought an identity, it just migrated to each activity. You know, it can wear robes just as good as orange jumpsuits at the prison. It has no problem with changing into those uniforms. The whole dilemma is it's a uniform, and we're calling it our skin. We're calling it the skin of the body. We're calling it the skin of the soul. We're calling it the essence of spirit. It's all selfing. There's no individual spirit or soul. Yeah? There's mind and mind alone. Manifesting. And in this manifesting, it wears lots of uniforms. But we're calling a uniform the skin. We weren't wearing this when we were kids. We grew into this little fucking suit. Yeah. Now we're taking it to be this. We're putting moisturizer on it called spiritual practices. It's not seeping in and enriching this. It's a suit. It's not skin. It's not being absorbed. All the teachings aren't being absorbed. They're being intellectualized and conceptualized. They're not being absorbed. I've seen it. I've seen people with incredible resumes. I've seen what alcoholism can do to an incredible mystical Buddhist. They start drinking again, there it goes. It's all out the window. Yeah? Their 20-year resume has absolutely no power to change the agenda of this parasite of selfing. None. Yeah. To put moisturizer on clothes would be insane, wouldn't it? To try to make the clothes spiritual would be crazy. You know what I mean? To try to make the clothes feel better about itself would be insane. Just take them off. If they're uncomfortable, take them off. Just don't open one button. Take them off. But how can, it's like the thing, if you had a pair of glasses and you didn't know they were glasses, they were taken to be your eyes. No matter how much distortions they would create, you would attempt to buy new glasses to correct correct the distortions. You never entertain taking the first pair off, because they were your skin. Your investigative ability, let's say represented by your fingers, would never go up there to feel around. You would just assume they're your eyes, and until everyone else is assuming the same thing, is calling those glasses your eyes too, and then you run into someone and says, hey bro, they're a pair of glasses. You would think you would love that message, but now you realize, Jesus Christ, I got a lot invested in these bifocals. I don't want to give this up. I think they look pretty good. But what would happen if you just entertain? Your hands would go up here, you'd feel around, and you'd recognize they're not eyes. What would you entertain next? Taking them off. See what it's like. If this works better than this, keep them off. Yeah? What's the best way to keep something off? In a sense, is to realize they were never on. You've never been truly bonded. It only appears to be so by the activity of your head. Yeah, that's why it says it's not bondage to self, it's a bondage of self in recovery. It's a beautiful statement. They used the perfect word. Because bondage to self would be like me sitting here as a thing, Paul, and this chair as a thing, and a pair of handcuffs would bond me to this chair. Yeah? If this was the case, then if I could recognize the chair and I found the right spiritual locksmith, they could open up the handcuffs and I'd be freed from the bondage to that chair. In other words, I'd get up, yeah? But we're taking ourselves to be the chair. So when we get up like this. We walk around and we're so, in a sense, our life has formed to suit the chair, so we're walking around like this all day, trying to find ease and comfort for the chair. It's hard to get into seats with a chair, too. Yeah? What would happen if someone would just come and go, hey, you're sitting on a chair. You're standing on a chair. That's your view is based on standing on the chair. Get off. What? Yeah, you can step off. No, what? Yeah, step off. What would happen? Find out. That's the message. This isn't telling you what's going to go on. Find out. Question, is there a long-lasting, independent, separate entity? Are you the thinker of your thoughts? Are you the feeler of what you're feeling right now? Are you that? Are you a separate thing that has feelings? Or because there's feelings being noted, it assumes or infers there's a special thing happening? Find out. Are you a thing, something that's having feelings, having thoughts, having experiences? Or are the thoughts and the experiences and things that are occurring being used by the mental process to infer there's a thing there? I would think that's a pretty damn important question to ask yourself. Yeah? If I'm walking around under the assumption that I'm the thinker of these thoughts going on, that relationship may be the petri dish for all the other shenanigans that are arising in my life. If I'm the one who's feeling what's happening in this body right now, and on an emotional body, on an energetic body, you can experience very subtle things. If I am the one who's experiencing those things, yes? What would happen if I wasn't the one who's experiencing those things? The assumption is I am the one who's thinking, I am the one who's feeling, I am the one who's seeing, okay? And then obviously everything after seeing, after thinking, after feeling is influenced by that relationship, yeah? If every thought I'm the thinker of, then all the thoughts from then on, that's going to be the influence of every thought. They're going to infer that I'm a thinker, yeah? If this is in place, then every feeling is going to infer that I'm a feeler. If this is in place, then everything I see is going to infer that I'm the seer. You don't see that as a common denominator in our life here? And what would happen if that common denominator, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but there's a possibility that it's not the only way. Maybe you're not the thinker. What would happen then? That's what I'm saying. Entertain the possibility, and then you will find out what will happen. When a thought will arise, maybe you'll be in a different relationship with it. Not as the thinker, yeah? But as, I'm not even going to go there. Find out. Doesn't matter what's going through with me. I'm not going with you this afternoon. Thank God you're not going to hang out with me all day. You may not like it. The message isn't the certainty. I'm sitting in a certainty about it. I've entertained it, but I heard it just like a meeting like this. And it wasn't about, I've got to keep seeing that person again. I realized it was a message. That the person was an intermediary while it was being delivered through. That person was not the message. The message was what was hearing the message that person was delivering. Yeah? And that I'm going to go home with. Yeah? That's I'm going to go to the beach with. That I'm going to go into my relationships with. I don't care how many pictures of the master I have in my wallet. It's not going to be there in my relationship with the girl I'm with. Yeah? What seemingly is going to be there is seemingly what I am. Yeah? And I'd rather realize I'm not that which I'm thinking I am. Yeah? So I entertained it. That's what I did. Just like I'm looking at this door and I see a lot of things and I see emptiness of things. That's what it's like. You entertain the idea. And what happens is it may produce a pause when everything that's being pointed at, being inferred, having something to do with you, the mind may not make the leap into being the moon that the fingers are pointing at. That's all. You may realize it's just pointing. There's no moon that it's pointing at. There's no you. But you're the seeing of the pointing. Yeah? Not seeing from the you, that's a form of looking, but the seeing of the pointing is freedom. Not from the pointing, but what it infers. The thought isn't what's binding you, it's the Maya of it. Being the thinker of it or about you is the binding agent, yes? Selfing claims, that's its movement. It's a mental process. See it. It's not a physical process. It's not even an emotional process, though it produces a feeling, a sense of being a self. It's a mental process. Yeah? That mental process has a desire, and that desire is to be a self, a long-lasting, independent, separate entity, a special, unique something. Yeah? What does it do? It claims what's ever happening. So if thinking is happening, it claims the thinking as the thought thinker. Yeah? Now, all the thoughts facilitate its drive to bond you to an idea of being a self. The thoughts aren't doing it. They're carrying the intent of the selfing in them. Yeah? All the thoughts do is point that there's a you. But the mind makes the leap into being the you they're pointing at. Yeah? The feelings, this mental process, use the feelings by being claimed as the feeler, uses all the feelings to infer and to imply that there's a feeler. Yeah? That's what it does. Yeah? Everything that's seen is now being seen as a seer, that all seeing is used to infer, imply, assume that there's a self. Yes? So it's not the seeing, it's not feeling, it's not thinking, it's the feeling of being the thinker, the seer, and the feeler. Yeah? That's where the bondage is. See if it's so. I don't believe there's a moon. All I see is they're pointing. That's all. And after I got disinterested in the pointing, because it wasn't about me, the interest went on the seeing of it. That's all that happened. Yeah? Here's the pointing, which you're seeing. Every one of us is seeing it, maybe in an ignorant manner, or in a confused manner, but they're seeing of it, yeah? Because the mind wouldn't make the leap in being the moon, because it's not the moon. It has to be pointed to as the moon. Yeah? It has to be assumed and implied and referred to all day for the mind to get in the habit of taking itself to be the moon. What would happen if you didn't make that leap? Yeah? You'd be seeing all the pointing. You'd be seeing thoughts. You'd be seeing feelings in a felt manner. You'd be seeing what's heard in a hearing manner. Or you'd be seeing, and after a while, it would dawn on you, you're a verb in a way. You've never been a noun, nor will you ever be a noun. You've never been a thing that's trying to become an unthing. You've never been a thing. Yeah? And then you just, I don't know, I find there's a great rest there. You know, being a noun is incredibly agitating. because it has to be reinforced all day. And everything seems to be looked at as it's happening to it now, which is way too much. It's like an avalanche of information coming on this one fixed point. It's way too much for us to handle. We can't process a day here. We can't process 3 hours of a day here. Really, can we? But in this way, instead of seeing life happening to you, you see life is happening. But I guarantee you can't go home and practice seeing life is happening. You cannot. You'd still be doing it as a you. Yeah? This is the backdoor way. Just see if that's not so. If what's being taken to be so, that a thought and a thinker, are cause and effect. That there's the thinker that's doing the thoughts. If that isn't so, a whole different feelings and attitudes and experiences and perspectives will grow out of that empty petri dish. Yeah, just like all this mental minutia and anxiety and belief in time, everything's growing out of that other petri dish. We're not saying we're going to put a new culture in there. We're just questioning the first culture. Is it actually so? If it's an empty petri dish, see what nothing produces in your life. See what happens then. Yeah? I found it produces an ease and comfort. And when push comes to shove, that's the only thing you truly, truly, truly really value here. Is if you could travel lighter every day, you'd be successful. You'd be well off. Yeah? You'd be totally okay. All the drive to use time to get to somewhere you think you're not will be dismissed. You'll be Saturday in Marin City. Even though you're late, you'll still be here. Yeah? And what better place to be located than where you are, seemingly? Yeah? Why not start on the square that you're on, instead of believing you were on a past square or the future square, and then having all your moves on the game board based on an imaginary location? Yeah? Fuck. It's hell to me. You know? Even if you run into a peaceful situation, you won't be able to enjoy it. Because you'll try to claim it, or try to keep it, prolong it, or fucking resuscitate it if you're afraid it's dying, and more meditation. Trying to get back to, give me a break. This is like relaxed awareness. It's very freeing. You know what I mean? Your lens opens up. That's all. It's amazing when it opens up, because you can't believe that it was a lens to begin with, you know. I remember what happens with me. It's sort of trippy. It goes like this. I was sitting there thinking, I am this, and I'm watching mental conditions and emotional conditions. And I was at a meeting, one of the first meetings I went to like this, and the lady said something, and it triggered my mind. And I was sitting there, and my mind went like this. The aperture opened, but not just opened, like it opened like this, and then suddenly the eye that I thought was still solid was being seen from another location as a mental state. Oops. Here I am from a mental state, picking and describing and intellectualizing everything I saw, and then suddenly that was revealed not to be me. The lens has opened up, and you're going to be included in the picture. Right now, we're thinking everything's happening from here. No. There's a bigger camera. This is like a little kid's camera that doesn't really have any film. It just has this past loop, goes over and over again. And we're thinking, oh yes, I'm experiencing everything. I'm the director sometimes. I'm the producer. I'm the star. And then suddenly you realize there's a really big camera behind your ass that's picturing you. What? Oh yes. You're a little idea in the movie of mine. Mine's maybe curious about it occasionally. But there's billions of us running in front of its view. And we're all thinking, like we're the most relevant, significant part of this whole picture. Look at me! This is very liberating, I'm telling you. For this to be so, your world's got to be really small for you to be so big. That's just what happens. When selfing has this event, claims it, this event's going to become probably really small. I don't care if you travel all around the world. It'll still be small because it has to be smaller for you to seem so big. And that's what, you want to be a big fish in a small pond. A big fish wouldn't be a big fish in the ocean. But in a small pond, it can seem to be really big, yeah? So its whole intent is not to realize the ocean. It wants to only realize the pond it's in, yeah? It wants to see differences instead of similarities. It doesn't want to have any, it may even want to know everywhere, but it wants to entertain everywhere from a special somewhere. Yeah? And it would rather go out from the special somewhere, get some of what it thinks is everywhere, or what other maybe people think is, and bring it back and have it in the special somewhere. When to me, the release is when that little pond realizes it's the extensive ocean. Yeah? And then you may go through a sort of a death in a way, the egoic or whatever you call it, the mental death, because then its bigness is seen so small, it can be incredibly devastating for something that you're not. So that's the good news. Yeah? So if you don't die and you don't act out, everything gets really good. Yeah. If you don't die, like for me, if I shot coke, who knows what would happen, you know? If I shot coke right now, first of all, I'd pass the donation box fast, because I'd have to get more money as soon as I could need, and then I'd be rushing out of here. I'd probably stay in Marin City all day, you know. Use this place, they find out, kick me out of the church, you know, and things would just ensue. And then if I had any idea that I was somewhere before this, how could this possibly happen to me? It happens as a me. Yeah? That's when it happens. Yeah? When the me grows up, it happens as a me, and the interpretation is happening to a me. Yeah? So if you don't act out and you don't die, things get really good. Yeah, they have to, because obviously mind's expressing here in time and space. So if you entertain this possibility, it's going to start expressing, and it's probably going to leak out into all your affairs. Things will just change, you know, in sort of a nicer way. I don't know if it's intentional. That's just what happens. Yeah. That's it.
Perfect timing.
What happened now? I may have a few more minutes. I think I said enough anyway, really. This is the super advanced stage now.
That's the advanced. Paul, I had an experience of an advanced Heterman Friday. I got some medical stuff going on, so they gave me an MRI. That's magnetic resonance, and they put you in a big, huge chamber.
Yeah, had one of those.
UCSF, and it's very a lot of noise.
Yeah, heavy, eh? Yeah.
And
Clanky.
right, they plug your ears up. They see your head. Your body is like this. Then they roll you into this tube. And I had it done once before, and it wasn't that bad looking at it because I was so grateful. To me, it would be similar to working in a boiler factory in the old days before they had the protections for workers. It was just awful racket. And I said, well, those poor guys had to work 10 to 14 hours a day, 5-6 days a week. I just have to spend 40, in this case, 60 minutes in this little machine. It'll all be over. Now, sometimes that creates tension because bang, dong, bing, bong, bong, bing, and I'm giving you a low body. And what I did there was my advanced Heterman was I tried to stay extremely present with each sound and react. The only way you react to sound, you can't make a noise, with a toe or a motion of the foot. And that time just passed quickly. It didn't bother me at all. It would never happen if I'd been thinking, how long have I been here? You know, once in a while the thought passes. I don't know how long to go. But just by that ability to stay present with whatever is happening right now. I don't have a lot of that work perfectly. And I just want to commend you. Thank you for the
great, yeah.
advanced AA that brought me to that.
I had to go through that when I hurt my neck in the water. They put me through it when I almost broke my neck. And I left in there. That put the sounds so much, I left. I mean, my mind space went out so much. Because it went to a point where the head couldn't take it. And then that's what you are, is all around that. I just couldn't, it was really way trippy. It's a trippy event, yeah. So, you were in there an hour, seemingly, yeah.
No, it was.
Yeah.
I've got a pacemaker, so they had to extend the time.
Yeah. Shit. Yeah, it shows up in all different ways here, yeah. Its effects. You know what I mean? It's like, even if you go back to gravity, you still have the realization of what it's like not to be in gravity. Yeah? So you can bring that realization back into gravity. You know what I mean? If you had an anti-gravity event, and then when you went back into the daily life, you'd start noticing gravity's effects a lot more. Wouldn't you? You would.
For a while.
For a while. And yet, in a sense, this anti-gravity is the primary state. Yeah? So it's always like contextually around the content of what all the influences and effects of, let's say, gravity or duality here, yeah? The singularity of everything, or the non-ness of everything, is the context where the duality or the seeming two-ness is appearing. So it's not like you have to rush back into an anti-gravity chamber. You are the anti-gravity chamber, yeah? And like it would be like Jesus says, you're in this world of gravity, but you're not of it. You're of the anti-gravity chamber, yet you're having an experience in this gravity realm, yeah? But you're not of it. And the ofness overrides the in, because in is based on in and out, yeah? But ofness is all, you know what I mean? It's more contextual. And your mind can easily grasp it. It's not a big leap. It's not an advance. It's not a thing to study. It's just an aspect of mind that can grok it, you know. If it has an invitation or a revelation or an experience or a message, whatever. There's many different ways it can be pointed to by mind to mind, yeah. But once the mind reflects it and gets an aha in its own surface, it's not easily forgettable. It can only seem to be forgotten, but now it's been grokked, yeah. It's been understood. To me, that's the beauty of it. It's not having to live. How are you going to live here in an anti-gravity chamber? It's like that guy, Howard Hughes, who was walking around with Kleenex boxes and everything. He didn't want to have any germs, so he tried to make his whole environment totally antiseptic. So he wore Kleenex boxes and everything, and he was still getting sick. He still passed away. But it's not like I have to live in an anti-gravity chamber, you know? No, you're not of the gravity. Yes? Yeah.
Would you have opposition to somebody identifying that the program, the big book, the information that is a source of reference be called critical thinking?
Well, in a way, it's just more observational thinking, where you recognize your condition or seeming condition.
I know what you mean, but I mean, so labeling something with that adjective of being critical thought. I mean, I'm kind of saying that the person that perhaps said, "Well, that's advanced." My today's cell phones, turn off, and all this other stuff that's certainly not the same thought pattern.
Yeah.
And so the critical, maybe that's not the right word, but in hence that all people can find a point of reference, so to speak. That's just something that I was considering in regard.
Well, critical thinking, I haven't heard that in a while, but I hear it a lot in the news and stuff because supposedly most people aren't participating in it.
Just somebody that had that experience, like you say, of gravity. Then the thought is much more critical about what is not gravity. You know what I'm saying? Or non-gravity experience, and then pondering gravity and going, well, It's much more critical.
Well, what would happen if all you're in is gravity? If you're all in that, then the idea of non-gravity could only be conceptual or intellectualized, yeah? Because you'd be constantly under the influence of gravity. But in this case, the constant influence of this gravity, mind and this and that, is only at the level of seemingly so. The reality is non-gravity. So there's not a point where you have... when you're in gravity, then someone says, oh, there's anti-gravity, or there is no world, and there's only love and oneness. Well, what happens when you're coming out of the gravity place? You're going to conceptualize that idea and try to fit it into the gravity in a way. Yeah? Which the gravity is going to weigh you down considerably trying to quote-unquote get there. Like it'll be lifetimes, let's say, of practices and processes. But in this case, we're just talking about the gravity to point out that it may not be so. What happens if it's seen not to be truly so? That's the sense of the anti-gravity. And when that sense comes over you, you'll realize it's always been that case. It's not, if you listen to everyone in history, in spiritual history, when there's any kind of satori, a dawning of anything, there's always a thing, it's always been that way. Yeah? That's in this case, the example of gravity, anti-gravity is severely limited. But it's pointing out to the fact that the anti-gravity is the incessant or inherent state. The gravity is a state that can only appear to be so. Yeah? If you see it's not, and what is that appearing to be so resting on? To the you that it's appearing to be so too. So we're not trying to change this experience of gravity's influences. We're just questioning who is it, who's under the gravity's influence. Yeah? If it's not you, you may realize, if I'm not that, you may realize you're what has never been influenced by all the effects of gravity. Yeah? Which would allow you to do what? Travel lighter under the effects of gravity here. Yeah. Instead of trying to find, like a temple or like this, which are like the anti-gravity places, or building one in your room with the altar and sage and nothing bad can happen in this room, no cursing, no sex or whatever it may be, or a lot of sex, who knows, whatever you're thinking. And then I'm going to rush to that place where I can feel the anti-gravity. How's that work for everybody? How's it work? Yeah, this is questioning who is it that's under the gravity? Who has this huge pull to go somewhere to get away from here? Yeah? If it's not you, you may find there's no need to leave here because you've never came here. Yeah? You've never left what you are. It can only seem to be so when you're identified as a you. And you're not that. Yeah? It's not like affirmations and saying, I've always been right where I am. That's not going to hold. That's the realization you've always been right where you are. It hasn't been prodded by any cattle prods of affirmations or prayers or stuff like that. It's just dawned on you. Yeah? It's like a sun that's never gone down that seemingly dawns on you. But when it dawns on you, you realize the sun has never gone down. Yeah? So it looks like there was a dawning, but the dawning affirms to you there was no dawning. It's always been bright. Yeah? There's a huge difference between seemingly so and what's so. It's a huge difference. Yeah? Seemingly so comes and goes. Seemingly so needs a you that be seemingly so too. Yeah? See it. It's an engagement of mind with an idea. The truth is, there's no idea the mind's engaged with. It's just mind, yeah? Jesus says, as you think, so you are. The Course in Miracles says everything you see, you've given everything you've seen all the meaning it has. They're all talking about the perceiving what's been projected by mind as if it's real and solid. This is the dilemma of perception here. It's the apparatus, this is how it sees. It's built that way. It's a form of looking, yeah? Are you inherently bound by that? Only if you take yourself to be this. If you're not this, you're not bound by it. It's just the it's like the working program of what's going on here. But you're not the programmer, nor are you the programmed. Yeah. There's a freedom. I mean, if you were walking around all day and all you saw was light, why would you want to fucking be here at all? Yeah? This is like, see the differentiation of light. So, undifferentiated light moves through this opportunity, and then it differentiates. And we have a subjective experience about undifferentiated light. Voila! It's awesome in a sense. Yeah? It's like being in a huge garden. If you want to make lay down in the thorn bushes, hey, okay. Hopefully that'll motivate you to get up and smell the roses. But, jeez, I have no problem with the format here. This is just what's happening. Yeah. But is it so? No, of course not. I say all the time, what would happen if last night when you went to bed you never woke up again? Would you know you were gone or you had ever been here? Last night, whatever was going on in your head 10 minutes before you went to bed, let's say you never woke up, you died. Yeah? Would there be that voice, would it be talking somewhere in some sublime realm? So I died. How did I pass away? I had to go to the store that day. I didn't call up my friends, this and that. No. Would it be? I don't believe so. I don't think so. And would you have anything where you would long for your old self that had passed away? I don't think so. It would be as if it never fucking happened. Yeah? Why? Because it never did happen. It's probably one of the greatest truths of all time. I've had it. I've died a couple times, overdosing and stuff. And I'll tell you, when I was gone, and it was a long time I was gone, because I shot up in North Beach some heroin with my friend, David Webb. You won't mind, hopefully. Can't get arrested, it's past the point. And in North Beach, I was laying on his bed, and then and I was sitting there, and I felt really good, I felt that warm, obliviated feeling, though it was leading me to true oblivion. And I remember I was looking at the room, and I always liked looking at corners and stuff, and I was looking at the corners, and suddenly the whole room went just sucked in, and I was gone, basically. And then I popped back up. I was sitting on the ground in the room with all these paramedics and 2 policemen, and David Webb and his roommate looking at the threshold of the door, and everyone was yelling excitedly, and I realized I was the object of all the excitement, and they were shooting me up with this anti-narcotic drug, Narcan, and I came back. The movie just started again, and there I was, in another hospital prison melodrama was going to ensue. But I was seemingly gone for at least 20 minutes. They weren't waiting in the hallway when I passed out. They had to drive, seemingly, and call up and drive, come up the stairs to this apartment, and they brought me back, and then it was there was an empty spool, no film, and then the film kicked in again, and then Paul got regurgitated, the story of Paul. Yeah, what happened in that little 20-minute interlude? Absolutely nothing. Yeah. Just, I would say that's how it is. Yeah. Could you imagine everything I've worried about and concerned about all this whole life? At one point, it's going to seem so clearly as if it never happened. Not to anyone. It can. That's really a great revelation. But not necessarily it's going to happen to anyone. But it's just going to be so. Yeah? Like it never happened. I was watching this weird movie, I'm going to go on a second, called Between Two Worlds from the 40s with John Garfield. Never saw it before. I only caught the last 45 minutes. And it had the guy from the Maltese Flower, Sidney Greenstreet. And these people were in a barter land between Earth and the afterlife. And they didn't know that. They were on this yacht. And they wondered, how did they get here? And they all had, there was the rich guy. And then they realized, hey, they're at the waiting room for either going to heaven or hell. and they had this examiner was going to come who's going to tell them which way they were going. And it was Sidney Greenstreet, this overweight guy, great guy. He walks in, and they're all going to get interviewed by him. And they have all the archetypes, the rich guy who fucking hurt everybody. And I have everything. And he says, the guy's talking, so the rich guy comes in and starts talking to Sidney Greenstreet. And he starts saying, well, mister, I should get this place and that. And he says, no. And he says, well, I had everything. And he says, what? Greenstreet looks down. What? Oh yeah, I had everything for 30 years. He says, 30 years, 30 days, 30 minutes. It's like a lifting of an eyelash. And the guy goes, what? Oh, get on the shuttle. You're going to hell. I thought that was cool. And here we are. It's going to be funny if we pass away who we're going to go up in front of, you and me. It'll be me in front of me. And I've already been convicted here. I'm definitely going to be convicted on the oversight committee. You didn't give your mother any money that time? Oh no, you're going to hell. There's no way you're going to win. We're all living out our little sentences in a way, you know. It's got to be, those court cases you're never going to win with the greatest attorney in the mental courts. They got to be brought to the court of life. You've got to see that nothing ever happened. Yeah, the sense of doership is very strong here, and many of us have felt we've done things or we've omitted to do things that we really should have done. Yeah, and they're like fucking steel hooks that many of us are on, and we're just swinging around on that hook. You know, maybe wearing nice clothes, going to nice places, but there's a big hook in us, and you're not going to get relief from any God of your making, you know, nor from you or from your peers. The solution is an absolution of realizing nothing ever happened. Yeah. So, all right, that's it, eh?